Hello, today we're going to tell a story with actions, so you get to do the actions. And all you need to do is use your two hands. Let me introduce you to Mrs. Wiggle. This is Mrs. Wiggle, so wiggle your tongue. Mrs. Wiggle lives in a house. Here's her house. We just use our fist. And when she opens her door, spread out your fingers. She comes outside, hello Mrs. Wiggle, and she closes her door. And Mrs. Wiggle has a best friend, Mrs. Waggle. Hello Mrs. Waggle. So we're using our other thumbs. This is her house. Look at this lovely house. She opens her door. She comes outside, hello Mrs. Waggle, and she closes her door. Now this morning, Mrs. Wiggle woke up. She had a big stretch. Oh, she went into the bathroom, brushed her teeth, ran down the stairs and had her breakfast. And she decided to go and visit her friend, Mrs. Waggle. So she went out her door, outside, hello Mrs. Wiggle, closed her door, and she set off to her friend, Mrs. Waggle, who lived over 3 big hills at the other side of town. Are we ready to go visit her? Up the hill and down the hill. Up the hill and down the hill. Up the hill and down the hill until she reached Mrs. Waggle's house. She knocked on the door and she waited for her friend to come. But nobody answered the door. So she shouted through the letterbox, Mrs. Waggle, where are you? And she waited. But Mrs. Waggle didn't come to the door. Where do you think she was? She wasn't in her house. She didn't answer the door. So what else had Mrs. Wiggle to do but go back home? So up the hill and down the hill. Up the hill and down the hill. Up the hill and down the hill. Until she got back to her house, she opened the door, she went inside and she closed the door. Now, the very next morning, Mrs. Waggle woke up. Oh, she had a big stretch, big stretch. She went into the bathroom. What did she do? She brushed her teeth. Then she ran down the stairs. What did she do next? She ate her breakfast and she thought to herself, I'm going to visit my friend, Mrs. Wiggle. So she opened her front door, she went outside, she closed her front door and off she set to Mrs. Wiggle's house. Are we ready to go for a walk? Up the hill and down the hill. Up the hill and down the hill. Up the hill and down the hill. All the way over to Mrs. Wiggle's house. And she knocked on the door and waited for Mrs. Wiggle to come and greet her. But she didn't come. So she opened the letterbox and she yelled through the letterbox. What did she yell? Mrs. Wiggle, where are you? And she waited. Where do you think Mrs. Wiggle is? She's not answering the door. So Mrs. Waggle had nothing else to do but go back home. So off she set. Up the hill and down the hill. Up the hill and down the hill. Up the hill and down the hill. All the way home to her house. And when she got there, she opened her front door, she went inside and she closed her door. Now, guess what happened the next morning? Any guesses? Mrs. Wiggle and Mrs. Waggle woke up at the same time. They both had a big stretch. They both went into the bathroom and brushed their teeth. They both ran downstairs and had their breakfast. And they both decided to go and visit their friend. So they opened their doors, they went outside, they closed their doors, and they set off to see their best friend. Up the hill and down the hill. Up the hill, and when they got to the top of the hill, they saw each other. Mrs. Wiggle, Mrs. Waggle, I was just coming to see you. Me too. Hug, hug, kiss, kiss. And they had a long chat and they told each other all of their stories about what they had been up to the last few days. And when they were finished, when they had nothing left to talk about, and now these ladies talked for a long time, they gave each other a big hug and they said goodbye and they said off back home. Down the hill, up the hill, down the hill until they got to their houses. They opened their doors, they went inside and they closed their doors. and Mrs. Wiggle and Mrs. Waggle decided to have a nice cup of tea, and they both said at the very same time, "Isn't it lovely to have a friend?" I hope you enjoyed that story, and when you tell that story, you can change Mrs. Wiggle and Mrs. Waggle's names to your name and your best friend's name if you would like.